How's everybody doing today? Give us a wave. Very good. Very good to be here with all of you. Good time to get together and gather hearts and minds and offer up some prayers and think about the primitive camp, this place that meant so much to this lineage, to Tom, and to all of us. And thanks a lot to Rick for kind of pulling this together. I know he's got just way too much free time on his hands anyway. So, how you doing, Rick?
Hey, Dave. Hey, and thank you. I know you've had a little busy week this last week. Yeah. Um, well, hello, everybody. If you don't know me, my name is Rick Barry. Um, yeah, I've been involved with Tracker for, God, it's almost 40 years now. And yeah, I work with the children. Really been running, the children's programs for Tracker School for a bunch of years now. Um, and so this is for the primitive camp, prayer for the primitive camp. Um, we're going to have some different speakers today. Part of this is, us coming together. And there was a quote that Dave had up there from Tom, and that quote was in the doghouse. It was the last one I saw in there with his writing when I was there, like with the family camps. And it reads, we're all working together towards a common vision. And then it says below it, like, and we do so in our own unique way. And it's a pretty loaded quote because some of that message is this common vision for this prayer is about grandfather's camp, the primitive camp. But then we do in our own unique way. And grandfather's vision to me is so out there in the world now. It's pretty phenomenal, a miracle, really. How many schools and people do this now? Wow. And so much it started in that camp with grandfather Tom when he was a young boy. Um, and like I said, this is gonna be pretty short, pretty simple, but the power of prayer, bringing people together. And the more people thinking that way and praying that way, as we know with the Tracker School and the Tracker School family, it does create miracles. And so I guess I just wanted to share a real quick something um, about my experience there and why it's so important to me. Um, in the late 90s, thanks to Tom McElroy, actually, he's like, hey, Rick, there's this caretaker program. I'm like, really? And I was just ripe for it. I was like, oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, you could go live in the woods. And then also, all these people show from all around the world every once in a while, and you get to see all these cool people. You're not like in the middle of nowhere, like all remote. And so it was an amazing experience, 2 winners, and I remember there was a moment where I was standing there and I was so alive. I still have that memory on the spot on the trail up to where I had my shelter and main camp. And I remember feeling so alive, like the most alive I ever was in my life. And there's these memories there that are just like the smell and the sense of that place. Um, anyways, and there's all those stories there, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to come back there still. Um, and I want to see that keep happening. There's other people that can have experiences like I had there. Um, and anyways, so we all love this place so much. Um, so anyways, that's kind of just an intro, and we're going to hear from a lot of the people that have been around for years at that Tracker School. Um, and I did want to put a shout out, Matt and Carmen. I know that they got really involved with helping like with some of the cleanup and stuff um, after the fire. And, there's all these things that happen. So just appreciate your guys is all showing up today. And thanks again, Dave, for helping with the Zoom and everyone coming. And just to say, I think Malcolm Ringwald, I think is praying right now. He couldn't make the Zoom in person. And so I'm going to pass it on to John Young. And John Young If you guys don't know, he was there before the school started with Tom when he was a youngster. So thank you, John.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. Thanks all of you for coming. Nice to see so many faces, and I know people that I love. Um, yeah, I first drove on one of those sand roads in 1971. I'd seen the Pine Barrens out the window, going to my grandmother's house down by the Barnegat Bay, and always wondered about this Pine Barrens place. And just so many memories. That place shaped who I am in so many ways, and I just want us all to go there and to remember what this place means to us. That might be in the memory of a misty evening with the sound of gray tree frogs in the camp when it's quiet, or those amazing thunderstorms and the smell of the pines itself. Just the scent of it just overwhelms me, even if I just remember it. Can you feel that? Can you smell that smell? Can you feel those sand roads on your under your feet when you're walking barefoot, and on the occasional greenbrier thorn that catches you by surprise? The pines taught me so much, and I'm sure it taught so many of you so much. And I just feel that water, put yourself in the swim hole for a moment and just remember that feeling on a hot day when you couldn't make it and you just had to go and be in that water for a moment. And in the moments when I was there alone, when it was quiet, when there was hardly anybody there, the memory of River, you catching that beautiful pine snake that one day, or the water, I can't remember what it was, a water snake or a pine snake, but we were having so much fun there. That place with the turtles down by the swim hole and the songs of the Carolina Wrens during lectures, right? Remember that? And the sounds of the robins and their alarms. And then sometimes when it was really quiet and you'd be able to catch the sound of the hermit thrush song on the edge of the swamp while looking at all that crazy lichen on the ground. The place with all these really interesting plants growing on the edge of the swamp there, always mysterious everywhere you look. It always sort of touches you in this deep way. And I just want that experience to be available for everybody into the future. And I'm sure we're all feeling that way as well. And make it so that the tracker school and the 4E and the family camps can continue, and the vision quest. And just, yeah, let's do our best to really, really call our hearts and minds to this place here for today. I'm going to pass it to River.
Thank you, John. Appreciate those words. Yeah, primitive camp. It's something my brothers and I see T3 here. How you doing, brother? We grew up in this place. It feels more like home than our homes, in my opinion. I moved around quite a bit. But it's so close to my learning and everything, to my being, that it's such an amazing place to be. And I was thinking about what I was going to say for all this, and I was like, oh, it's personal to me because I grew up there and was able to see all these things. But then it got me thinking of the people that haven't seen camp or might not be able to see camp, and whatever we can do to show people how amazing this world can be, and how how awesome the Pine Barrens can be. Um, is so integral of what we're trying to do, and what we're praying for, um, and to get people back, of course. But um, there's nothing like being down in the stream on a hot August day when it's 100 degrees out and you're just submerging yourself um, so you don't overheat. But it's such a close place to the Brown family, and to a lot of others, and whatever we can do to keep pushing that forward. But yeah, I'm gonna pass it on to Nancy Klein, one of our elders, our eldest of elders.
I can always depend on you, River. You're so thoughtful. I had so much to say and I don't know what to say. It's like a stream of consciousness in my head. Speaking of streams, John mentioned the hot weather and getting in, and River mentioning hot weather. My epic stream adventure was getting in the water in January and trying to wash my hair back when you could like bathe in there. Yeah, I see you laughing, Rick. You know. And I got out of the water and I felt alive, but all over my legs, I had like 50-cent coin size blue dots all over my legs. And I was fascinated by it. It was the strangest thing ever. And I recovered, but what a great memory. Like, really, like Tom said, being alive. You know, sit at home or you can get blue dots on your legs in January. You know, you got a good story. And the other thing that comes to mind, like right off the bat, was in grandfather's camp. And one of my first trips there, I think it was in the back-to-back. God knows what year it was. 87, 86, maybe. I had a painful relationship. And in my tent that night, I was taken to a place, an enclosed circle, and I was looking up and there were all these faces around me. And there was the smell of herbs and smoke. And I just laid in it and reveled in it. And it was like candlelight. And the next day, I knew it had been a healing lodge. And I was brought to tears when I found out that that healing lodge was within the circle of grandfather's camp. It was the small little sweat lodge off in the southwest of the circle, I think it was. And I experienced on a profound level what that camp means and the history that's contained in that camp. It is so sacred. And we're a part of a sacred chain that's centuries old. And I like to view things from a historical standpoint, how profound that is, that we hold within us the sacredness of all those centuries ago, and that we'll be passing it on to future generations. And love and gratitude to Rick and Juan for all they're doing for the kids. It's more than I can even talk about what this camp means. Watching the boys grow up there, Tom's teaching, all the words, the profound moments that we all had there, a spiritual awakening, physical skills awakening. We hold this within us. And this prayer today, I see like it's a radiant, glowing light that's encompassing this camp, and it's radiating out, and it's touching all the people that are involved in protecting this camp and all the work that Rick is doing. And I'll just close by saying that visually this morning, I woke up seeing Tom, grandfather, and the essence of the lineage standing within the sacred fire circle in that inner ring. And it was a glowing fire, and it was a white fire. And this is what we'll bring to people in the future. And that's why this is so important for us. So I thank you all very much. And I will be turning it over to Paul Fambro. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It's been 30 years since I first set foot in the primitive camp. And I took my standard class up at the old Asbury farm. And then my very first year of taking classes, I spent 5 weeks in the primitive camp. I was absolutely enamored by the power and the feel and the sense of that place. I've been able to be in that camp for every year, with maybe an exception of one of the COVID years. I've been there every year and set foot there. I was very, very fortunate. I believe it was in 1998 that we cleared the area in the forest that we all now know as Grandfather's Camp. And that was, and attended the very first ceremony that Tom held there at the end of a class where we did that. And I'm back there every year, and I'm again just enamored by the deep feel and connection I have to that place and what was there before I ever came there. So now I always make it a little personal ceremony whenever I arrive at the primitive camp to not only take a walk down to the swim area, which has its many, many, many stories that all of us can share. I also make a walk out to Grandfather's Camp and walk that circle several times in a personal introspective. And every time I'm there, and every time I'm there at a ceremony, I can sense and feel Grandfather leaning against his tree over there, kind of this little subtle smile on his face, going, yeah, right on. And so there are just so many memories and so many experiences there that I've written about in Razor's Edge a few before, from some of the fun and frivolous ones. I've had the opportunity to kind of to poke and prod around in all the little nooks and crannies of at least the primitive camp triangle. Certainly nothing like the caretakers have had the opportunity to do. But it's really amazing. And I've had several opportunities to be in the primitive camp all by myself, including this past summer. I was able to spend some time there. No one else was there but me. And I know caretakers have that experience often. And it's really, everything just switches. You walk through or step through a veil, as Tom says, when you're there alone. It's just another world, becomes another world. It's you and what is there in the past and what is there right now, and a feeling of knowing what is in the future there. So it's a very special place for not only the Tracker School, but all of the thousands and thousands of students that have been there and have touched the magic and the mystery of that place. Keep that in your hearts as we move forward in trying to acquire that primitive camp in our permanence for the Tracker School and for the vision that we all walk. And every time you come back to that primitive camp, stop and feel deep within your heart and within your soul of what's there. And if you can't make it there, you can transition yourself to the Grandfather's Camp Circle, Ceremony Circle, as we do many times in a lot of the ceremonies that we do remotely. Feel and sense that. It will bring joy to your heart. So thank you all. I'm going to turn this over to Meredith.
Thank you, Paul. Wow, that was really profound. And for everybody else who has spoken, it's tremendously important. Sorry, I'm going to switch my view here. Bear with me. There we go. Now I can see everybody. Woohoo! Much better. My name is Meredith Blackwell, and I've had the privilege and the honor, the humble honor, to be able to be at the primitive camp for 28 years. And started out as a student, and as Nancy says, there's so much to say, and there's just so many stories. I hope you can feel it in all our conversations that we're having with you today. This camp has such a profound, profound effect on me. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to see so many students come through and see how their lives were changed by the place in its simplicity and it's in its complexity. People were healed. People found joy. People found community. And talk about the concept of power of place. It was so visceral there for me, no matter where I was on the landscape. It was truly like a second home for me. And I can't imagine not being able to go there. And I deeply feel in my heart that we will always have the opportunity to be there. That is how my intent is. I'm putting that intention out there. And I feel it so strongly right now. I feel it so strongly with everybody here and everybody who's going to be hearing these prayers, that we will be able to continue on. I want so many people to know the joy that I've known. I myself have healed, and I want people to know the joy of being out in the woods. As John Young was saying about the smells and the sounds, the wind through the pines, the whippoorwill. It's something that I've never experienced anyplace else. No matter where I've gone on vacation, no matter where I've lived, it's meant so much to me. And I know you join us all, because I truly believe in the power of prayer. It's powerful. And this group of people, it's extremely powerful. Shana. I'm going to be passing it over to, I believe Maddie is with us.
Me?
Yeah, you. Hi,
Oh, yeah.
buddy. All right, I'll pass it right over to you. Go ahead.
Yeah. When John mentioned the smell of the pines, I feel like it doesn't come to me as a scent, or even necessarily as a memory, but more a feeling. And anywhere in the Pine Barrens, it's such an elusively magical place. It doesn't have the grand vistas of like the Grand Canyon or majestic mountains, or the like raw power of a waterfall. But there's so many little secret temples in the Pine Barrens, and so many wanders around camp, like outside of the camp area, coming across places that are 10, 15 feet away from the main trail that I've never seen, even though I passed it like thousands of times. And just like a magical little, sanctuary. So many of those little sanctuaries all around the Pine Barrens. And from living there for so long, sometimes it could feel like the camp area was like Grand Central Station. That was my nickname for it sometimes, especially during a class. And it could feel so crowded, and because full of, well, first of all, full of people, but the energy of people learning and striving, working hard to improve themselves and improve each other. But walking down that trail into grandfather's camp and moving into grandfather's camp, even when it's full of people for a ceremony or anything else that we're doing in there, no matter the amount of people that are in there, no matter the energy of what's going on, it's such a calming presence. at the end of the memorial that we did for Tom, my family and I were staying in the Boy Scout camp between the memorial and the classes, and we allowed the fire that we had lit for the memorial to burn down completely, and it burned down to, you know, ashes and a little bit of charcoal because it had rained lightly. And we picked up all the ashes and put them all in a bucket. It would have been nice to have a basket, but we didn't have a basket that would carry the ashes. I don't think Tom would have minded too much. We took the ashes, we put them in a bucket, and we drove out to the Pine Barrens and carried the ashes to bring them into grandfather's camp and rest them in grandfather's camp because it felt like the right place to be in. And as Rick mentioned, had been very involved in the process of getting the camp cleaned up after the fire, and talking with people from the NJCF about, you know, the future of the camp, and, you know, putting a lot of time and energy into retaining access for the school. And I just remember walking up to the circle, walking with the ashes, and there's those inner circle of direction poles, and like crossing that inner circle of direction poles, a lot of that stress of wanting something for that camp. There's a lot of wanting. It kind of like started to melt away. And then as I stepped over the threshold of the rocks, and I was just about to put the ashes and the charcoal into the fire of the circle, was such a strong feeling of like, they can't take this place away from the lineage. And it wasn't a defiant feeling against anybody. It was a firm, strong feeling of absolute faith that the lineage of the school, every student who's ever come, every student who ever will come, everybody who's been involved in the school will always be able to access that place. It was so strong. It was so visceral of the feeling of like, this already is our place, and not just ours, because the prayers that happen there, the intentions that are set there reach out to the world. That's exactly what Tom said, that he didn't think it was going to be him who turned the flock, that it was going to be one of us that turned the flock. And it felt like such a strong rooted place to be coming from, to be standing in that circle, and a very powerful feeling of this will always be ours. And I laid down the ashes and the charcoal, and I made it into the symbol of the shaman, as Tom drew on the whiteboard in philosophy classes. And as much as that faith is there, it's also very strongly knowing like, now we have to do the work, because Tom always made us work for it, and grandfather always made Tom work for it. So that firm foundation is there, and that solid reality of like, this is something that we will always be able to draw upon in the physical as well as spiritual. It's like, now we have to add in the work. And so I'm thankful for everybody being here on this call, and really thankful for Rick for all the work that he's done to get us to this point. And I don't know who I'm passing it off to. Charlie, there we go, Mr. Blackwell.
Thank you, Matt. Those beautiful words. I'm Charlie. Tom put me in the group of elders for the tracker school, and I love the primitive camp. I love all those Pine Barren areas. I had a friend that I used to go mountaineering with. We climbed many mountains, saw many vistas, wonderful things. And he asked me, what in the world can I find beautiful down the Pine Barrens? And I said, it's a square yard. It's just stopping anywhere in the Pine Barrens, in a primitive camp area especially, and looking at all the little lichens, the moss, the little tiny flowers that might be coming up, the way that the insects are interacting, the little tracks that the ants leave as they come across. There's so much beauty in just a a square yard of the Pine Barrens that it's hard to explain. And that's how my memory of the Pine Barrens and the primitive camp really is just these little 1 yard memories. Um, Went in for my advanced standard class, and we were driving through one of the old fire areas there. So everything on the trail in was all burnt. And then we come across some greenery and we pull in. I had no idea where we were going. We pull in, and there's the primitive camp with the old Thunderdome and the other lecture areas that we had there. And just wondering, like, how is this little tiny circle of green and all this burn still there? Magic. Who knows? Tom's energy, grandfather's energy. Um, our friend Larry, who was part of the Coyote Medicine Thunder Society, we did his funeral there and we scattered his ashes there. I can't imagine losing that area and losing that connection to Larry. Um, I was recovering from my back surgery and it didn't go all that well. Tom allowed me to come into camp and said that, all right, just go sit in the kitchen, make sure that the water's filled for the tea and the coffee's made. And I spent about 3 weeks straight there, just doing that. Snow on the ground, freezing weather. It was just, and he was right. It was a healing for me. I transitioned from barely being able to walk 100 steps at a time without resting to be able to walk back and forth from my tent 2 or 3 times a day in that period. It was the energy of the Pine Barrens that did it for me. I can remember coming across out after staying awake half the night because of a whippoorwill next to my tent, and then getting up the next morning and stalking through the brush looking for one and finding out that it's this little monster of a bird. It's tiny, it's cute, and yet it can keep you up all night long. It's just um, it was almost 30 years that I was there before I saw with my own eyes a mouse. Mouse tracks everywhere. Mouse tracks eating through my notebook bag. All these kinds of mice everywhere. It took me 30 years to actually see one in the primitive camp. Down to the swim hole. One day I was having an allergic reaction to all the chigger bites on my legs, and they started turning to welts. And Tom said, "Go down and lay in the moss." So that's what I did. I found the big pocket of sphagnum moss right next to the swim hole, and I laid in it for until I turned numb, which was great because those chigger bites were so itchy. Turned numb, and everything was wonderful. And after about an hour and a half to maybe 2 hours of laying in there, I came out and the hives were gone, the trigger bites were tolerable. Just the kind of magic that can happen. Drifting or crawling down down the stream from the swim hole and experiencing all the beauty there that you can find. Just on the side of the banks, the little flowers that are growing out of it, the orchids that you can see. The days when the pine trees gave off all their pollen and all of a sudden clouds of yellow everywhere, covering the ground, just yellow, green, beautiful stuff. Um, this place, it's the better part of me. It's the better part of a lot of us. A lot of us found who we are there. We sat in the lecture hall. We went to ceremonies. We sat overnight back in the woods, just experiencing everything going on. So I love that place. I wish and I hope and I pray that we're allowed to stay there, that we can continue this for other people, that other people can come in and experience the magic of the primitive camp. It's such a beautiful thing. I spent myself out. So, Jennifer Villarreal, are you on today?
Thank you. My name is Jennifer Villarreal. I work with 4E. I've only been going to the primitive camp for 4 to 5 years now, with my children. For me, there's deep profoundness in how you see children change there and how you see children come from a world that isn't created for them. and how they walk into the gates with immediately take their shoes off and run with zero abandon, almost as if they're in a church, the sacredness of a church, but with freedom of being outside. And they lay on the ground with absolutely no worries of insects or anything that can harm them. Anything cold doesn't touch them. Even personality, having other children around, or even differences in that doesn't affect them. It's incredibly beautiful to see the children from 3 years old into their teens find safety there, find themselves there, and be able to see themselves in a way that I think changes their trajectory of their life, that creates such a deep foundational knowing of themselves in the world that it completely changes their entire trajectory, where they're going in life, how they see every single tree, how they see every single rock, how they make a relationship with every single animal and other people. And beyond that, I see families heal. I see fathers and their sons bond in a way that they haven't bonded before. You see single mothers with their children, just camping for the very first time and being very anxious to having all the confidence in the world in their children, there with them and listening for, 30 minutes to a story that somebody's telling. And I think of the beauty of it taking us back to the village and who we all were, in our blood, in our DNA, and all of our ancestors. It takes us back to the village when you see the children, their parents with the firelit faces, listening. I mean, how often can you get a child to listen to you for more than 2 to 3 minutes? And they sit there for 30, 40 minutes listening to a story. It's such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And so that's why I pray, and that's why I will fight as much as that I can to help Rick and 4E to try to maintain the primitive camp in the Tracker family and within the community, so that this can always be somewhere that children can go to find themselves. So I think I'm passing it on to Bill Marple. Thank you.
Yeah, so hey everybody. For anybody that doesn't know me, my name is Bill, and I've been associated with Tracker since in the primitive camp for almost 20 years now. Seems like it was just yesterday. And yeah, I'm so happy that we're here doing this, because just like for you all, this place just means so much to me. I was just relating to the last speaker, what she's saying about this. Children come to the camp, and it changes the trajectory of their lives. And it's not just children. My life changed it's a way long story, too long for here. But just like so many people here have expressed, this camp is so special and so unlike, I think, what almost any of us have experienced anywhere else. I could really relate to what Matt was saying. It may not have the grandeur of the Rocky Mountains or the power of a waterfall in the Amazon, but there's just something so potent and beautiful and silent. For those of you who know me, you know that I do a lot of teach tracking. And something that I've always noticed about the Pine Barrens and the primitive camp is that just like some other people have mentioned, it forces you to look so small. it forces you to just so deeply appreciate all the little things of nature. You know, the little pebbles, the little flowers, the moss beds, um, you know, all of the animal tracks that crisscross through that place. It's amazing, and I think that's probably what it's taught. One of the things that it's taught me the most is um, how much grandeur there actually is in those small things. Um, I could go on and on about just the sheer beauty of the place that you know, for a while there, I lived in camp, not necessarily as a caretaker, just because I was essentially homeless and needed a place to stay while I was working at Tracker. But it's okay. It was by choice. And you know, some of the things that I think Paul Fambro said, and just being in that camp by yourself, and just listening to the wind moving through the pine trees, that specific sound that it makes that I don't recognize from any other pines, not white pines or red pines or whatever. There's something about the pitch pines and the way the wind moves through it that it just strikes a particular note that just is so moving. Um, you know, I've had so many experiences there, some of them really, really challenging, some of them so beautiful and moving. Like many people here, um, I've been so healed by being in that camp, either with classes with Tom or going down to the swim hole and jumping in, you know, be it in a hot summer day or the cold of winter. Um, and I think more than anything else, um, I just resonate so much with what many people here have had to say, that I really feel like that camp and that place taught me what it means to be alive. You know, to be sitting around a campfire and smelling the smoke of it, to have been working so hard on skills during the day or tracking, the refreshment of jumping in the swim hole, um, or drinking the what I regard as being the most delicious, cleanest, coolest waters on earth. Um, you know, walking into a place like Grandfather's Camp would be hard for me to express all the things I've truly experienced there, that so many people have experienced there. I just couldn't resonate more strongly or more powerfully with this sentiment that, you know, this camp needs to survive. This camp needs to continue, because so many other people need those same experiences. And yeah, I'm just really humbled to be here with everybody.
Did he freeze? It's really cold up there in Maine.
Yeah, he's deeply contemplating.
Thanks, Bill. We have, is Jerry Mondays in the house? Oh, there's Bill. All right, well, we'll just go on with Jerry. Thanks, Bill. All right, Jerry, your turn.
There I am. Sorry. Give me a moment how to figure out how to use the phone. Good morning, everyone. I just got up. I had a late night at work last night, so I'm a little tired. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think probably for every one of us, that time that we've spent in the Pine Barrens is so sacred, so life-changing. How deeply it allows you to go to find your true self. How much awareness it allows you to be who you truly are and interact deeply with the earth. It is such a protective and nurturing space from my experience. So giving for your own journey and your own discovery, which leads you not to just yourself, but as Thomas said, from the minute to the majestic. I have been so deeply touched and saved by having that space to share. You know, we all go through life and we all have struggles and tense questions. You know, we live in a society that does not nurture, does not teach how to be nurtured, does not give you the space to heal. And like in no other place, so many miraculous interactions. Just the ability to, you know, at times just lie there and just absorb and listen and explore without pressure and judgment and someone breathing down your neck, society breathing down your neck and telling you what you need to do, what you should be doing. I mean, that place for me has opened so many doorways to allowing me to become a whole person and a giving person. To all the people that I've run into in my life. I mean, there's so many ways that I have been able to touch people around me because I carry with me that profound sacredness, that silence, you know, that I learned by being in the Pine Barrens, by being there with classes and being there by myself. You know, it has like no other place. I've been to a lot of beautiful and grand places, but what is gathered there, like no other place in the world that I have seen, just allows you that space, allows you that quietness, allows you, I mean, honestly, to touch God. You know, I don't mean that to sound cliche, but it's deep. It's miraculous. You know, we all have our stories and we all, I think, know this. You know, so many answers have come from being in that space. So many just profound and amazing experiences that are really undefinable otherwise. Like some of the things I've experienced, I can't describe to other people. They're just there. They're deep in my heart. And it has completely changed who I am today because of it. And it's not like, you know, we don't try. It's not like when I was, you know, young and growing up, I didn't try and work hard to be the best version of myself and to understand my place in the world. But without the Pine Barrens, without those lessons, without that space, I probably wouldn't have made it. I know I wouldn't have made it. You know, I have a life today because of how I was given the opportunity to really find myself and my connection in a deeper way to this to the great mystery, to everything about this earth that I love. I can set it on my own house, on my own front porch, and find that space again because of what the Pine Barrens gave me, freely gave me. Yeah, I mean, it's there's no other place like it. And I am so appreciative. I am so grateful. And I want to see it continue. I want that same opportunity for others, because that's the greatest part of this journey. Not only finding your true self, not only finding your relationship in a profound, deep way, but then having that ability to show that to others. Because there is a lot of pain in the world. And so, whatever we need to do to preserve that space and give that opportunity to others is what we need to do, what I need to do. I'm very, very grateful. And much love to all of you.
Thanks, Jerry. All right, we're gonna transition to the walk to grandfather's camp and Carmen's prayer. Go ahead, Carmen. Thanks, everyone.
Here we are in grandfather's camp, in the heart of the primitive camp, feeling the winter, the crispness, the sounds of the birds carrying for miles with no leaves to mute them. And just sense the presence of this place here in grandfather's camp. Feel its power. And now I invite you to turn off your videos so that we don't have any visual distraction as I lead us through an envisioning process. And you could close your laptop halfway, or you could turn to the side so that you just eliminate that visual distraction of the screen, just so you can hear my voice. And I want you to envision yourself there in grandfather's camp, in the heart of the primitive camp, sensing the presence of that place and how it makes you feel. Perhaps you have some memories come up within you, and allow those memories to fill you. And allow yourself to relive those memories you feel drawn to, powerful experiences you may have had. Just allow yourself to drift from memory to memory and how it made you feel and how you still carry it with you. And if you've never been to the primitive camp before, just think about stories you've heard from it. Or maybe stories you've read in Tom's books, how those stories made you feel. Why don't you allow yourself to wander around? Maybe hop from place to place around the Camp Triangle, places that draw you. Spend a moment in each place just sensing the presence of that place that drew you. Maybe it was where you pitched a tent one time, or maybe it's where you had a sit area one time, or a swim area. Any number of places that you find yourself just being drawn into the memory of. Really feeling these memories, these experiences anchor you into the primitive camp. Feel yourself just melting into the earth of the primitive camp, feeling yourself a part of it, because we all are a part of it. We've affected it, and it has affected us on many levels. So just feel that where your skin is, there's a dissolving, and there's no end to you. There's no where you end and the primitive camp starts. It's just this endless oneness with this place. And just feel the waves of energy of the presence of the place passing through you, because there's no boundary. And now I want you to sense the presence of something different. Sense the presence of something that feels a little out of place there. Maybe something that perhaps is not supposed to remain there. Perhaps something that might be preventing the Tracker family, the lineage, from being able to continue to caretake in that place, to continue to teach and learn and carry forth the lineage in that place. See if you can sense the presence of whatever this thing might be, some sort of obstacle, or whatever you might want to call it. It's anything that it's not supposed to be. I want you to give it a shape. Give it a shape and give it a color. Give it a shape, give it a color, give it a name. And now force this thing into a sphere. Whatever shape it has appeared to you, just force it into a sphere. And now make it smaller and smaller and smaller until it's the size of a golf ball, and now it's the size of a marble, and now it's the size of a pea. And just allow it to slowly drift downwards till it lands in the pine needles and the sand and the earth. And watch it just melt into the earth and go deep down into the earth to be healed, to be recycled into something new. And now look around and sense the presence of this primitive camp again. And I want you to imagine a dome of protection. Envision this dome surrounding and protecting the entire camp. You can expand it if you want. You can expand it to Spirit Hill, through the swamp, but really focus it on that primitive camp, with grandfather's camp there at the heart of it. A dome of powerful light, a dome of protection. And watch it grow and become more intense. And now see all of us there in the primitive camp, everybody empowering this dome of protection. The light is so bright. Everybody working together. It's effortless. And now let yourselves come back to your bodies. Just take a moment. And when you feel you're ready, you can turn your videos back on, rejoin the meeting. Thank you, everybody who joined in on that. And I just want to say before I turn it to the next person that we can all be repeating this meditation as a tracker family and continuing to empower that sphere, that dome of protection.
Thanks, Carmen. I know we're going over, I guess. That's what it is. Randy, you're going next, right? Okay, and then Juan, and then Jorge. Yeah.
Thanks, Rick, and thank you, Carmen. That's beautiful. The primitive camp at first was a mystery. It was this place that I'd heard about, I'd read about, and I heard the stories about it in my standard class and my philosophy 1 class up at the farm, and was so excited the first time I went into my back-to-back class. And that, it's gone through so much transition. When I first went to the primitive camp, the first cut of the cedar swamp had just happened. But still there was this incredible cedar swamp right up to the trail where Brown Land was, where Tom's tent was, and the family stayed. And I had a sit area in there. And when that was taken away a number of years later, I was heartbroken. And through the years, what that camp represents to me is the vision that Tom and grandfather gave me, and that camp gave it to me, because that camp touched me so much that I wanted to learn how to heal the earth. The loss of that cedar swamp. And then through the years, going back for classes every year, and then being honored to be able to help out and stay in the primitive camp for all the classes when they were happening there, and stay there when online classes were happening. I spent a winter there by myself, not the whole winter, but I had a tent and Of course, I had the studio to go to. It wasn't like I was in full survival by any means, but it was so incredible being there. I can't imagine that not being part of Tracker. I had the same camping spot for over a decade, and I put out birdseed, animal feed, because it's the same thing, and got to know generations of towhees. They would bring their babies back the next year. Same with the red squirrels. I started naming the red squirrels, and I learned so much about nature just sitting at my tent when I wrote the book with Tom on his guide to healing the earth. I wrote 3/4 of that book sitting in my tent, looking out the open wide door at everything going on around me, getting distracted by the nature happening and then going back to it. But also what's so important is not just me, but all the partners I had in different philosophy classes and physical classes, all the groups that I was with, and how that power of the group is so much more powerful than the power of the individual. And the experiences I had with these people and miracles became a normal part of my life in the primitive camp. My sit area by the stream is a place I love. I've got a picture I took of that when I get tired of looking at the computer screen, I just put that on full screen. It's like a meditation, just looking at that picture. I can't express my love for everything that grandfather and Tom taught us and how those lessons became real in that camp. You know, Tom said, this was referenced earlier, when did you feel most alive? Were you comfortable? Were you, well fed? No. You were in a dangerous situation. You were in an extreme situation. And God damn it, if Tom and the staff didn't put us in those kinds of situations, did you want it enough? Did you push through those situations? Well, the majority of us did and came out stronger and happier. Those are the best times. And I want those best times to continue. Thank you. I'll pass it to Juan if he's here.
Hello, everyone. It's really nice to see each one of you that I've met before. Thank you, Rick, for putting this together. I'm listening to everybody's stories, and it's so beautiful. And even before I, came to this time frame right now, I didn't know what to share. The camp, to me, I arrived there not knowing who Tom was, not knowing what the tracker was, and not understanding anything about the Pine Barrens or New Jersey for that matter. And Jorge picked me up at the airport, and that was strange in itself. Driving from the airport and getting into camp, and there's probably over 100 people, maybe 125 or more, and that's the way I saw the camp from then on for many other trips that I went to take classes. And it was just chaos. And I could never settle in because of the people. I'm not a social person. And I always wondered how beautiful it would be there if it wasn't for the people. And eventually I had a dream about that. And then I was awakened by a song, kind of reverberation in my chest, and I was overwhelmed, and I stepped outside of my tent and I could hear it even louder, and it kept getting louder and louder. It was just a lot of vibrations. And I kind of assumed that it was some of the partiers around with some really badass speakers, full blast, having a party, and I could feel it, and I just dealt with it and went back to sleep. I explained to several people what I heard, and people were telling me that it must be the power lines. And some were saying, well, that's too far away to hear the vibrations of that. And after that class that I first heard that, I went to visit my daughter in Germany. Went to McGuire Air Force Base, took a flight from there. And that first night that I laid in the bedroom that she had set up for me at her there in Germany, I heard the same song, but in a different pitch. And then I carried my granddaughter Isela, through some pretty ancient, really, really old orchards that were there close to her house. And I would walk her there or carry her in my chest. And I finally sat down by an really old apple tree. And there were some hawks flying overhead, and I heard that song again. And I remember Isela looking up, and I think she heard it too. She was a tiny baby. I don't know if she was even a year old at that time. And then I've traveled a lot with Rick, and we were with the Ute people in Utah. And during one of our programs, we were with several elders, and they talked about how the mountains sang to them. And then when it finally came to an understanding was with Kenny Guitine in Western British Columbia. And they were bragging about how their mountains sang to them. Beautiful snow-covered mountains. And I understood exactly what they were saying. And before they finished saying, I said, I bet you this song that they sing to you, they thought it was a song only that they could hear because they're from there. And I sang the song to them. And he said, you know our mountains. And I said, no. I said, I understand the sacredness of the song and where it's heard. And I've searched for that. It's barely audible here in Texas. But when I go to the Pine Barrens, it's really powerful there. So I understand the power, the sacredness that exists there. Maybe it's all of the Pine Barrens, but I only associated with the camp that I know, which is that camp. So my prayer is for Rick and the camp, because you carry that Tom allowed me to not listen to the chaos around me, but to listen to the earth, the trees, the wind. It's all one song that they sing, and it's very powerful there. And I don't ever want to lose that to some group of bikers, playing their music there and never understanding what exists there. And I try to think of, that's the only thing that as you all are talking, the beauty of the place. And thank you for having me.
Thanks, Juan.
Oh, let me share this. The people in Canada and British Columbia eventually told me that they call this thrumming. I'd never heard that word before. So anyway, that's what they call the song of the earth, thrumming. Thank you.
Thanks, Juan. All right, Jorge.
Good morning. Thank you, Juan. That's beautiful. In January coming up, we'll have a philosophy one. Some of the physical classes. One of them is philosophy one, and when I worked there, I used to do a lot of lectures. But there was one in particular that I enjoy, especially in philosophy one, and it was when we had to talk about the directions. And I'm not going to go over them because it will take too much time. I only have 2 minutes. If you have taken philosophy one, go back to your notes and review all of them because all of them are important. If you haven't, you have an opportunity in January to learn about this. But I'm going to talk about the winter time, the direction, the power of the north. The season is the winter and the color is white. And this is Tom teaching us about each direction, each power. So I will read it to you. The power of the north. With his cold and mighty winds, he teaches us strength and endurance. With the purity of his white snows, he gives us renewal. A new and pure path. As in the frozen grounds there lie the seeds of spring, so too does it teach us about hope. Most of all, it teaches spiritual introspection. When I'm reading you this, I spent a lot of time with Tom in the farm. He used to wake up at 3:30 in the morning, the special time of the night. 4 in the morning, I will wake up at 3:30 and make coffee for us, and I'll sit down in silence. And that's when he wrote a lot of the stuff for the classes and everything. It's the special time of the night in which we're closer to the spiritual world. Well, guess what? Tomorrow we have an opportunity. Tomorrow is the solstice, the longest night, the coldest, when the veil is the thinnest to the spiritual world. We have that opportunity tomorrow. And now you have a prayer. Now you have all these words that everybody spoke. So my suggestion is tonight, tomorrow, using that spiritually, because we can't do it physically because we're not in the primitive camp. Take that walk and go into the center of camp. Go to the center of fire. Imagine there is a fire there. Imagine they're going to meet two people there. Grandfather, at one time, was a child. And he listened to the elders and he learned all the skills. At one time, Tom was a child and he met grandfather and he sat and he listened and he passed all that teachings. We were childs and all of that was passed down to us. And guess what? Now is we. We need to pass it down to the children. So we need to counsel with grandfather, counsel with Tom, pray in that, ask for directions. We need to let this winter season pass. The time I can go into that power of the north for an hour and dissect all of that. I used to do it in the lecture, but I don't have the time. Just sit down and counsel, pray. Like Carmen asked us to do, make it smaller, and pass it down to the earth. Let the earth mother take it. And take any problems that is stopping us from going back into that camp. Sit down in that camp and pray. We have that huge opportunity. And the important thing is, do not forget the child. because it's up to us now to continue these teachings. And we need the camp. And in all those sands down there in that camp is our sweat, our tears, our blood, the time and years that we spend in struggling, learning, dreaming, fighting, loving. Use that opportunity. Thank you. I'll pass it down to Rick.
Thanks, Jorge. So I'm just going to wrap it up real quick. I know we went over, but it is what it is. Really wonderful to hear everyone speak. Wow. And so that first picture of the camp, I don't know, Dave, if you could put it up there in the front or something. It has where the ashes that Matt put there from the memorial. Yeah, in the center, just a few words I'm going to say and just wrap it up. There's these stones. You guys have seen them. They're the bog iron stones. And, I helped put those stones there. Helped open the camp in the 98. Paul Fambro was, some of you might have been there. We put that outer ring of stones. And then later, those other stones were from the medicine waters and they started popping up. And Tom said, hey, you should bring them back to camp. Yeah. So maybe someone else, you guys they used to have a sweat lodge out there at the medicine waters. And as the buggies came, they had them buried all out there. So we brought a bunch to camp with Maria, I remember. So there's all those stones. So it's like that foundation, stone medicine, it's old medicine. And from there, a lot of us here, we're like these pillars that go up, right? And then there's rafters and there's the shelter. To me, that's how I see it. We're building a shelter for this place. So people can still continue to come there and we light the sacred fire. And the water flows, and then that's our food. We get to be with each other. It fills us spiritually. So thank you all so much, and thank you, Juan, for talking about the songs, and I always remember, I'll leave you guys with this. I remember with Tom one time, it was like, the Song of the Coyote. I'm going to teach you the Song of the Coyote. And it's a way of life. And he said, would you give your life for 1 square foot of earth? And no one would ever know. The Song of the Coyote. So thanks, everyone. Happy solstice. All the good prayers. And so let these prayers go out where they need to go. Let it be. You could take off your mics and say hello and goodbye. And well, there's no such thing as goodbye. So thank you all. Shuna.
Thank you,
Bye.
Rick.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Rick.
everybody.
Thank you all. Love you all.
Thank you all. That was
Thank you
absolutely
all.
wonderful. Love you all.
Adios,
Thank
everybody. Thank you, everyone.
Peace, everyone.
Hey, Maddie.
You can say something. Say thank you.
Thank you. Love you all.
Thank you.
I don't know if it worked.
It did.
Awesome.
Blessings to everyone.
Bye.
Blessings to the camp.
Paul.
Paul,
Take care, Paul.
Nancy.
Thank you. Blessings. Love you, Juan. Thank you.
In our hearts, Juan.
Woo. Yeah, that song.
All right, guys. Until next time.
Bye, Rick.
Take care, Rick.
Thank you, Rick.
Happy solstice.